I will share a little bit about myself for those of you who don't know me. Again, my name is Mara Walsh. I am in the United States and specifically in Yardley, Pennsylvania, which is between Philadelphia and New York. The reason I give you that location is because I am in the Eastern time zone. So when you look at the times of the virtual tours, you can use New York or Philadelphia to convert those times to your local time. Don't let the name Girl Travel Tours fool you. We welcome everyone on our tours, not just girls. The name came about because I started leading physical tours with EF Tours as a Girl Scout leader, but now I lead tours for all ages using EF Go Ahead Tours and many other tour operators. We do tours just for adults, and then we do multi-generational tours as well. But when we're unable to travel physically, I started this travel program to really help a lot of my friends in the travel community. So that brought us to virtual tourism. There's a couple reasons why I started this virtual tour presentation series. I really wanted to support the tour director community during this time of no work, where the travel restrictions were such that most tour guides and tour directors did not have any work at all. And I really wanted to keep the excitement of travel alive for my travel group and also extend the opportunity to travel virtually to those of you who've learned about us through your friends, your family, social media, specifically Facebook. We've done about 70 tours since COVID reared its ugly little head. And if you'd like to access any of those recordings, they are all available on my website, on the YouTube channel, and also my Facebook page under Girl Travel Tours. So please just search them out and go back and watch some recordings. I'm sure you may have missed one or two along the way, so just know that they're available to you if you'd like to go back and experience them again. We have several more tours planned for this coming year. I'm going to share with you a list of the future virtual tours that we have in the works. We have Bethlehem, which is next week, December 21st. We have a Christmas Markets of Europe tour between Christmas and New Year's on December 28th. And then we have started to add virtual tours for 2022. And right now, I have a few ready for registration. We're going to have George back, who will bring us to Stonehenge in January on the 12th. Austin is coming back to share a Scotch whiskey tasting tour through Scotland January 18th. And Vlad will be back to share Bucharest with us on January 25th. Raffaele is coming in short afterwards to share his birthplace region of Italy, Piedmont, with us in early February. And then we have a few more in the works, including a National Parks Canyon tour in February on the 15th, Lake Como on the 22nd of February. These and others will be added to the calendar soon so that you could start to register. But please go up there and register for all the ones that are already listed. As long as you're interested in viewing these virtual tour presentations, we will continue to produce them on your behalf. I would like to say hello to everyone out there who's joining us from Facebook as well. We are streaming live right now, so welcome. I also wanted to just put a little red flag up there. We still have some scammers here and there that have come in and leaked in through Facebook. I just want to warn you and say, if for some reason you paid for access to this virtual tour, that was not done by me. That would have been done by somebody who's trying to make money off of you, but that is not us. So if you were asked to pay, please double check to see what credit card you paid on, or if you paid with your Facebook account, and make sure that it has not been compromised, because I do not ask for any money for you to attend these tours. Now, if you choose to leave a tip for the tour director, that is absolutely acceptable and encouraged, but that is not an entrance fee, just to be clear on the difference of there. I want to review a few ways for you to interact with us during this event. Feel free to ask questions about the tour director, and my travel program in the Q&A. We will go over those questions after the tour, and we'll do them live so that everybody can hear the answers. If you want to chat with me specifically, you can use the chat mechanism, and I'll do my best to communicate back and forth with the chat. And those of you on Facebook, please feel free to post and interact with one another there. It's always fun to see that interaction during the event. And I always like to give the opportunity to share a poll to get an understanding of what your connection is with this region. So I'm going to launch that poll at this time. And ultimately, it's the same question. What's your connection to your northern Spain? I've been and I love it. I have a trip booked. I plan to go in the future. I have no set plans, but I'm interested in the location, or I am solely interested in experiencing it virtually. I'm going to give you a minute to answer. Actually, I've been to northern Spain when I was in my 20s, when I studied abroad in Europe. I got to travel all over, and that is the last time that I've been to northern Spain. So I know it is a very different experience now than it was back in the 80s. So I would love to go again, is my point. And I hopefully will get there in 2023 to experience it again. So it looks like we have a decent amount of people who've answered. I'm going to share the results, but it looks like about 44% of you have no set plans, but are interested in the location. There's a small percentage of people, about 20%, who have been and loved it. That's not actually a small percent. That's a pretty decent size. And then, as always, we always have our folks who are here just for a virtual tour, which we welcome you and keep coming back. That's awesome. So I'm going to stop sharing those results. If the panel doesn't go away from your viewing screen, you might have to click on the little X or the dot on the top left to get it down. Today's tour is scheduled for 90 minutes plus a Q&A. All of our tours are scheduled for that same time. Some of them end earlier and some of them extend long, but that's a general rule of thumb that you can use for your scheduling purposes. I always say that it is, it's like a movie. So you want to have your popcorn and your drink, or your cup of tea and your biscuit, or whatever it is, depending on what time of day it is where you are, so that you're comfortable and you enjoy the tour. A tour would not be complete without a fantastic tour director. And we are lucky today to have back Manuel, who is our Spaniard and expert in this subject matter. He has done many virtual tours with us, including the Prado in Madrid, Gaudi's Barcelona, and recently Portugal. I'll share with you via chat and during the Q&A how you can tip the tour guide. If you appreciate this presentation and our guide shared experiences, feel free to leave a tip. All of the tips go directly to the guide once collected, minus the Zoom operating expenses. So today I want to welcome back Manuel. Manuel, if you are ready, you can join me and I will hand over the event to you so you can unmute yourself and say hello. Welcome back, Manuel. Nice to see you as always.
Hello, Mara. Thank you so much for having me again. It's my pleasure to be here again doing these virtual tours, in this case of this not as well-known part of Spain, the north. And thank you all for being here, all people, watching. So I'm really excited to do it after, this pandemic that is taking a lot of time of our lives, right? Okay, but I think everything is gonna be fine in the next month. I'm pretty sure. So if everyone is ready, we will start, right? Okay, so I'm gonna share my my screen. I need your permission for that again to share.
Manuel, you should just be you should be able to take it right over. So just go into share and say, share your screen, and it might say, take permissions from.
Okay. Okay, now, sorry. Technicalities. Okay. Let me see. Okay, let me see if everyone is seeing the screen. Mara, is everything right?
You're perfect, Manuel. You're going to Northern Spain.
Okay, perfect. Okay, as Mara told you, my name is Manuel Alberca. I'm from Spain. I live in Madrid, but I used to travel a lot to the north of Spain, not now, but regularly, and many other places. So it's going to be my pleasure to introduce you to this beautiful area in Spain, the northern Spain, following the way of St. James. Probably some of you are familiar with that. So let's get into it. Well, most of you probably have been, or you have an idea where we are. We are in the Iberian Peninsula. This is a kind of funny map of the major attractions and food in Spain. The capital is in the center, in Madrid. We have Barcelona to the Mediterranean coast, like Valencia, Andalusia to the south. And then the north, we have some symbols, and we are going to check in our tour today, like the running of the bulls in Pamplona, the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, and also the Cathedral of Santiago at the end of the way. This is the part of Spain we are going to travel virtually. This is a little more specific map of Spain. We are divided in different regions, autonomous communities. So let's check just the north part, okay? This is the Cantabric Sea. The Cantabric Sea, Mar Cantabrico, is a part of the Atlantic Ocean, but we call it that way in the area touching our coast in the north, very close to France too. So I'm gonna do now like a little overview over the regions, although we are not touching all of them because we don't have that much time. So first of all, we have the Basque Country, El País Vasco, Euskadi, in their own language. They speak Basque. We are going to check two of the most important cities, Bilbao and Donostia San Sebastián. From there, we are moving to the area of the mountains, the Pyrenees, to the region of Navarra, a former kingdom, which capital Pamplona is really well known because Hemingway and the running of the bulls. In our way, following the Camino of St. James, we'll cross by La Rioja. This is the most important wine region in Spain. We are not stopping in there because no time I told you, but let me just tell you that it's one of the most important in Europe, with more than 163 acres of land planted, more than 16 producers of wine, and more than 600 different wines. Yes, if you are curious, I'll give you a couple of names of the most important wineries there. One of the most important one is called Marqués de Riscal, in case you want to look for some Spanish Rioja wine, or Muga. This is especially good, M-U-G-A. So next time you are going to the market, look for the Spanish Rioja wine. Then from La Rioja, we'll follow to Galicia, crossing the northern part of this big region of Spain, Castilla and León. The two main cities there, Burgos and León, were and still are very important because of the way of St. James. In the very north, in the coast, we have these two small regions called Asturias and Cantabria. Both of them are beautiful, and they deserve, you know, just a virtual tour for each of them. Cantabria, which capital is Santander, is a beautiful, charming region with a lot of beautiful towns at the coast and very good food. In particular, in Santander, the anchovies are really good. And Asturias is the cradle of the Spanish nation after the Muslim invasion in the 7-11. The Muslims took over in the 7-11, and only few Christians remained in the north, in Asturias, and that was the beginning of the reconquest. So it's very important for us. Oviedo is the capital, a very charming city, but also, as you could see in the other picture, beautiful villages, you know, fishermen, former fishermen villages, now very touristic areas. And finally, we arrive to Galicia, which is the end of the way of St. James. The capital of Galicia is Santiago de Compostela. You could see there an image of the Cathedral of Santiago, where all the pilgrims need to arrive. and joy. And we have a statue here of those pilgrims arriving to Santiago. And the statue is because, you know, from that point, from that hill, they see the pilgrims, they could see for the very first time the towers of the cathedral. So normally in the next day, they will arrive to the cathedral. So this is the month of joy. That's why. Okay, let me explain a little bit more about the way of St. James. I don't know how much you know about it, but it's a medieval pilgrimage that started approximately in the 9th century. The main way nowadays is called the French way, because, you know, people, they came from France, basically, so they took that name. And it goes from, if you want to do it properly, you need to start in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in France, or in Roncesvalles, which is the other little town across the Pyrenees. The Pyrenees divides Spain from France. So, or in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port or in Roncesvalles. That is the starting point. Obviously, you could start anywhere because you don't need to do the Camino at once. You could do the Camino in several parts, but if you want to do it at once, starting there is, you know, mandatory. And it goes to the way to Santiago de Compostela in Galicia. This is the red line that you could see over there. It has approximately 800 kilometers, which is something like 500 miles. And you should take 30 days, 30 stages to complete it. Approximately walking 25 kilometers or 15 miles every day. It's an average. Sometimes you could walk, some days you could walk more or less, depending on your organization, how you organize your way. In 1987, it was considered by European Council like an European cultural route. Later on, in the 1993, it was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And in the 2004, it was awarded with the Prince of Asturias Award for Concord. The Prince of Asturias Awards are a very important award that, you know, we have here in Spain, in Asturias. Is not as important as the Nobel Prizes, but, you know, in our culture are very, very important. Many important people from all over the world, they got those awards. So there is not only one way of St. James, there are many ways. The most important ones is the French way, but even in the Iberian Peninsula, we have the North way by the coast, the primitive way, the first one starting in Asturias, that medieval kingdom going to Santiago. Also, we have the Portuguese way coming from Portugal, the one of the center of Spain, the English way. There are so many ways. And actually, the way starts where you live. If you are coming from Paris, okay, the way is from Paris to Santiago. So that's why we have this little map with people coming from all over Europe towards Santiago de Compostela. A little bit of history to give you some context. Who was Santiago? He was St. James the Greater, one of the apostles of Jesus. And it's curious because, you know, it has different names in different languages. So Jacob in Hebrew, Jacques in French, Jaume in Catalan, Iago or Tiago in Portuguese. So from that Iago and Tiago, Saint Tiago, we have the Spanish Santiago, or even Diego. You have San Diego in the States, for instance. Diego is also a version of the name Jacob, yes, Santiago. He was the son of Zebedee and brother of St. John the Evangelist. According to the legend, he was preaching in Spain, but not in Spain, in the Roman Hispania at that time, but he came back to Jerusalem to be present at the moment of the death of the Virgin Mary. And Herodes Agrippa, the king of Israel, killed him, was beheaded. Some of his disciples took his body back to Hispania, According to the legend, in a stone boat, a little bit complicated, crossing the Mediterranean, going North Atlantic till the coast of Galicia, to a little point called Iria Flavia, a Roman spot at the moment, and he was buried there, somewhere in the place where now we have Santiago. Then the legend starts. In the 19th century, an hermit called Pelayo saw some stars over this forest, the Libredon forest, and he told to the Bishop Theodomir of Iria Flavia, and apparently they discovered the Apostles' Tomb with other two coffins of the two disciples, Athanasius and Theodore. He told to the king of Asturias, Alphonse II, remember Asturias, that small kingdom defending from the Muslims the rest of the territory, and he became the first, officially, according to the legend, the first pilgrim. And that was the beginning of this medieval splendor of this pilgrimage, which is considered one of the three most important pilgrimages in the world for the Catholic faith, only after the one to Rome and the one to Jerusalem. The most important century for the splendor of the way was the 12th century, under the rule of Bishop Diego Gelmírez, because they finished the Romanesque cathedral. This is a kind of virtual image of how was that beautiful cathedral, very impressive for the 12th century. Also, another important character of that century was the Pope Calixtus II, because he declared the Holy Years of St. James, which is every time when the 25th of July is a Sunday. So that happens every 5, 6, 11, 5, 6 years. So this year is a holy year. And the Pope Franciscus, because of the pandemic, he declared also next year a holy year. So you come, not this year, maybe yet, but next year is going to be also a holy year. So it's good if you are Catholic, because you are going to have a lot of privileges, like, having all your sins forgiven and things like that. Okay? Also in the 12th century was published this Codex Calixtinus, the Liber San Jacobi, the Book of St. James, with a lot of information, legend, and histories about Santiago and St. James. And also in the 5th book, there was a kind of tourist guide. It's considered the first tourist guide of the world, because it was for pilgrims, a way to understand how to get to Santiago with all the information that now we have on internet. It's kind of funny. The book is in the cathedral, is kept in the Cathedral of Santiago. Also, many hospitals for pilgrims, hostels, they were built under the protection of the kings and queens and the noble families. So that, also encouraged, this pilgrimage. And all the interconnection in between Europeans, because it's not only faith, it was culture, history, money, economy, interchange. So the way we claim, in the modern times, in the modern century, but in this last century, in the 20th century, from the 60s, 70s, the people, they decided that was maybe a good idea to, to get it back. So there was a couple of years important for that. In the 1982 and 1989, Pope John Paul II came to Santiago as a pilgrim, the first time that a Pope came to Santiago, so that was very important. And in 1993 was a holy year, and also they got the way got the UNESCO World Heritage Declaration. So it was a big promotion. There was a big promotion from the authorities for this Xacoben Year, with this kind of official mascot, like in an Olympiad. Okay. And then we have the symbols of the way, the shells that normally the pilgrims they used to get when they arrived to Santiago was a kind of proof of being there. Nowadays, you could get it from the beginning. Also, the symbols in the way, the yellow arrow and the yellow shell, the passport or the pilgrim credentials. So you need to get stamps in each of the stops to prove that you have been walking several miles. to get the official certificate of the way, the Compostela. You only could get it if you have been walking the last 100 kilometers, okay? So sometimes people, they start in those, at the beginning of those 100 kilometers, so they got the Compostela. Huh? But obviously, if you walk more, you will get also the Compostela. A little bit of history and now some facts. Of 2019, because 2020 was complicated, 2021 has been much better, but you know, this is the record, the last record of pilgrims was in 2019, 350,000 pilgrims, 94% of them, they were walking, but also people were using bikes or horses or even sailboat or wheelchair, okay? Most of them, for second consecutive year, were women, 51%, and by age, most of them, they were in between 30 and 60, and then less than 30, and then over 60. Which ways they prefer? Obviously, the most popular was the French way, the one I explained before, with the 50%, then the Portuguese way, and others. Nationalities, what the most important community are the Spaniards, and then the Italians, the Germans, the American in the fourth position, the Portuguese, and then other Europeans like France, UK, but also Korea and Brazil. Why you want to do the way? Well, according to those statistics, you know, 40% of people because of religious motives, 11% cultural reasons, and most of them, almost 50%, both cultural and religious reasons. So those reasons could be to visit the tomb of St. James Apostle, obviously. Also, you know, to reflect on your life, self-awareness. Get away from the routine, so do something different that you normally you do on holidays. Or yes, you know, a culture, visiting cathedrals, you know, learning about history, or simply meeting other pilgrims, meeting other people, because that is very easy along the way. Those are some of the reasons. This is a little of an overview of the feeling of being a pilgrim. So also you are going to have a glimpse of the landscape of the north of Spain. So see, people are just walking. Also by bike, you have the hostels and the places where you can stop. Walking is kind of hard. You could, you know, visit beautiful little towns or cathedrals. Sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's windy, sometimes it's cold, very hot. But there's always a time to rest, to enjoy, to share a wine or food with people, with friends that you just have met. I guess no other. This is the idea of being a pilgrim. Maybe you could decide it after you know watching this or after you know seeing this presentation. Okay, so let's start it with the Basque Country. The Basque Country, the País Vasco, is a particular region with their own culture, their own language. They speak Basque. The name of the Basque Country in Basque is Euskadi, for instance. We are going to see the two most important cities, Bilbao and San Sebastián. Bilbao, obviously, now is very well known internationally because of the Guggenheim Museum. Okay, and it's one of my favorite cities nowadays. It's probably the most important or attractive city in the north of Spain. That's why I am going to do a little more of explanation on this beautiful Bilbao. So this is the map of the pretty much the city center. It has a population of 350,000 inhabitants, but the metropolitan area is 1 million. So it's the fifth or sixth most important largest city in Spain, and was founded in the year 1300s by Don Diego López de Haro, who was a member of the Castilian nobility. Yeah. We have several areas in Bilbao. That first one is the old section, you know, the very origin, the old town. Then we have the enlargement of the city during the 19th and beginning of the 20th century. And then all the area along the river has been renovated because, not only because, but with the excuse of the Guggenheim. So I'll explain later, but they have transformed the city from a very industrial, ugly city to a city of culture and services, okay? But we are going to start first with the Casco Viejo, with the old town. To get into the Casco Viejo, you need to cross the river and start with this Paseo del Arenal, the former harbor, with little spaces for music to enjoy. We have, at the entrance, two important buildings, this church from the 18th century in Baroque style, and also the important Arriaga Theater, a very important cultural venue in Bilbao from the middle of the 1800s. The luxury interior. And then you get into the Plaza Nueva, the new square, but was new at that moment, not now. It's from the 16th, 1700s, and it's a perfect spot to enjoy life, having some pinchos of wine in the outdoor tables. And I want to recommend a particular spot that I used to go when I in Bilbao, that normally happens several times a year. This is Café Bar Bilbao. That was opened in the 1911. It's a place to be once you are in Bilbao and in the Plaza Nueva. Once there, let's go inside. You'll find this bar full of those pinchos. Pinchos is the traditional appetizers in the north. A little bit different than the tapas that we have in the rest of Spain. So pinchos is because they have a little wooden stick to join the food with the bread. And there's a lot of variety of those. So you can enjoy those pinchos with your friends or family in the charming interior of this Café Bar Bilbao. Then we have the very old part of the town, the so-called 7 streets, siete calles, because there were 7 parallel streets, okay? That is very beginning of the city and the harbor of Bilbao. Very charming area, mostly pedestrian, with a lot of shops, coffee shops, is very, very, very beautiful. Also, in the middle of the siete calles, we have this Cathedral of Santiago, because Bilbao is also part of the way, of the northern way. This is an impressive church from was built between the 14th and 16th century, in Gothic style, as you could see. And then my favorite place in here is the market, La Ribera Market, that was built in the 1920s or 29, and is one of the biggest markets under a rooftop. I think they had the record Guinness of that. This is one of the entrance. And inside you have all kind of stalls with very fresh products, in particular fish. The fish in Spain is really good, and in the north is extremely, extremely fresh and good. Also, they have a part, or a new area, like a food court, where you could enjoy the pinchos or food with friends and family, always very crowded. In that area of the Ribeira, the riverbank, also we have this San Anton Church and Bridge, a beautiful building by the market. Then we will move to this enlargement of the city. It was built at the end of the 18th century, beginning of the 20th century, and it has a very long avenue called Gran Via. It has a long name too, Gran Via Don Diego López de Haro, the founder of the city, but everyone knows it as Gran Via. Beautiful buildings, but also very commercial area, full of shopping. This is the entrance of the Gran Via with the monument dedicated to this Don Diego in La Plaza Circular. And just a little bit ahead, we have this beautiful palace, the headquarters of the provincial government from the 1900 in a kind of eclectic style, but very important institution for this province. And in the corner, we have a statue of someone that probably you know, John Adams. Why we have in Bilbao a statue of John Adams just in the middle of the main avenue? Because he was here. He was visiting the Basque Country when he was traveling, being a diplomat in an ambassador in Europe. And he found the Basque like a people practicing the democracy from the very beginning, okay? He wrote something like, these extraordinary people have preserved their ancient language, genius, laws, government, and manners without innovation longer than any other nation of Europe. That's true, because there's a tradition of democracy in the Basque Country. So that's the reason. And opposite to John Adams, probably sometime he could step in the shop, we have one of my favorite, pastry shops in Bilbao. From the 1852, could you imagine? This pastry shop called Arrese. If you are in Bilbao, you should go there too. This kind of traditional, charming, old-fashioned interior with really delicious pastries. And you should try the very typical Carolina pastry, with this kind of puffy pastry with cream and chocolate, like a little tart. In the middle of the avenue, we have the Plaza Moyúa, a beautiful rounded square full of, flowers all year long, with a fountain in the middle. And around the square, we have two important buildings, beautiful buildings. The Chavarri Palace, with this kind of new Flemish style from 1888. Now is the headquarters of the government of Spain in the Basque Country. And also the very luxury hotel Carlton from the 1926. Probably your best choice if you could afford it when you are visiting here. And then at the end of the avenue, we have this beautiful Doña Casilda Park. People in Bilbao, they love being there. Where we have also the Fine Arts Museum, which is one of the most important in Spain, with a very important collection. This is the main entrance nowadays, the modern part. It's going to be extended with a new project of Sir Norman Foster, this very important British architect. Important paintings like this Goya, portrait of Martin Zapater, or this from Gauguin. But one particular spot I want to show you in this visit is this cultural civic center called Azcuna Centroa, or Alhóndiga, that's the former name, built in the 1909 to store wine, but it was rebuilt in the 2010. The interior is impressive. They have built different buildings with a lot of different purposes. The image that you could see there is a direct image from the satellite from the sun, taken with a satellite. So it's live all the time. To enjoy to understand a little bit more of the important city center, I want to play for you this little video. Let me ask.
Ich wusste gar nicht, dass Bilbao sowas hat.
でも見てみて、中は全然違うよ、すごいね。
Derrière les colonnes, on se cache, on tombe amoureux, on embrasse. Philippe Stark.
Wow, 看，游泳池。
They have all kind of facilities, a bookstore, a mediateca, a gym, also theater, cinema theater, all kind of activities and events for kids, for adults, for children. It's really good.
A ver, perro magia. ¡Hala!
For free.
Que haya un espacio
Because it's
público.
supported
Yo
by
creo que
the
ese es el gran éxito.
Obviously, you need to pay
Oye, te
tickets.
cuento que esto ya va a empezar,
But
¿sí?
you know, the access is most technical is just for the ticket. It has also
Betul
It
banget.
has also a restaurant, cafeteria,
Ciao Sara, ora mangiamo, ti mandiamo un
so
bacione.
people enjoy life in that. So, don't miss it next time or when you can visit to Bilbao. So from here, we are going to understand now how the city has evolved from a natural city to a very modern city. This is the view of the Ria from the old section of the city. Ria means tidal river, like estuary, because it's a tidal river, the Nervión River. The mouth of the river is not very long away from the city center. So the city was that way, you know, harbor, big industries, so really polluted. So in the 80s, there was a big crisis, and the city hall, they decided to change the city into a city of services and culture. So in the very beginning of this area of the city, we had the city hall from the 1892. And then we will start with the modern part of the city. This is a bridge built by Santiago Calatrava, Zubiri Suri Bridge. And also later on, this important architect, Arata Izusaki, he built those towers. Yeah? It's, you know, along the river is like, you know, a contest for international architects. Then we arrived to the Guggenheim Museum from Frank Gehry. But we'll get back later, because I'm going to show you some other spots first. The Guggenheim is still there. This is the Plaza Euskadi. It looks like, you know, the building old, but it's totally new. Also with an important tower, the Iberdrola Tower. Iberdrola is an important company in Spain, by Cesar Pelli from Argentina. And the Euskalduna Palace, a concert hall and auditorium built by Soriano Palacios, local important architects, with the Euskalduna Bridge. This is an overview of that new area of the estuary. And finally, the new stadium of the Athletic Club of Bilbao, the, you know, football club, very important in Spain, and in particular in Bilbao. Gets illuminated at night with the colors white and red of the team. So let's go back to the Guggenheim. Frank Gehry decided to build this kind of building in movement with important statues like this of outside the Louis Bourgeois, or the tulips of Jeff Koons, or this of Anis Kapoor. But the most important singular sculpture made of flowers is the puppy of Jeff Koons. Inside, we have a lot of important pieces of art like this from Richard Serra, Rothko, or William de Kooning. They have an important collection, but they normally change it. And the most important are the temporary exhibitions, also Warhol. So this is an overview of the museum that have transformed literally the city of Bilbao. It was opened in 1997, so more than 20 years. They have changed also the city, and it's the idea of Frank Gehry, you know, this obsession with the transformation, with the movement even of the buildings he used to build. That happens with the Guggenheim. In fact, in the atrium, in the middle of the museum, just when you get the entrance, you could move to everywhere. You could move to any, there's not like an order to see the different rooms. That is like, you know, very interesting, because it's like, you know, the museum is pumping, you know, the heart of the culture, you know, through the visitors, and it's really interesting. And outside also they have normally activities, and just the views that you could get from all over the city are really amazing. And the construction of the building also had to do with the transformation of the city. Had to do with the renovation of the river. That was very polluted. Even the renovation of the air, of the whole atmosphere of the city of Bilbao. And that was, and it is, the Guggenheim Museum. Okay. So next time you are coming, please don't miss, you're coming to Spain, don't miss Bilbao. Now we are going to visit the other important city, the Basque Country, and in the north, Donostia San Sebastián. Donostia is the Basque name for San Sebastián, with this beautiful La Concha Bay. The city of San Sebastián is smaller, 200,000 inhabitants, pretty much double in the metropolitan area, and was founded in the 11th century by the Kingdom of Navarra, that we'll see later. And they have two very important events along the year. One is the Jazz Festival since 1966, Jazz al Día in Basque. And the most important one is the International Film Festival happening since 1953. The Bay of San Sebastián is in between two hills, the mountain Igueldo and the mountain Urgul. And in the middle, we have the island of Santa Clara. Then we have three beaches. To the left, well, to my left, the Ondarreta Beach, to the other side, the Zurriola Beach, and just in the middle, the most important one, La Concha Beach. Concha means in Spanish shell, because it's the shape that it has. And you know, that is the main important area to visit, the old town and the little center of San Sebastián. So let's take a look to the old town. From La Concha Beach, we could start in one of the sites, and well, this is one of the symbols of San Sebastián, is the Belle Époque fence. In one of the sides of La Concha Beach, we have this Miramar Palace, was a royal residence for the royal family, because they decided to come to San Sebastián in the second half of the 1800s. So San Sebastián became that place to be. So all the noble families, all the people, the rich people, they came here following the Queen Maria Cristina. So that was the moment of the splendor of the city, the Belle Époque, in particular at the beginning of the 20th century. In the other side of the beach, we have, you know, nowadays Town Hall, but it was the former Grand Casino, where all those people, they spend their money, right? And then from there, we could connect to this boulevard that, you know, divides, you know, the very old section with the enlargement, the first enlargement of the city. From there, we get into the old town, and we could check this Basilica of St. Mary of the Chorus, Baroque in style from the 1700s. Let's check a little bit inside. And pretty soon you'll get into the main square now, Plaza de la Constitución, Constitution Square, rebuilt in the beginning of the 1800s because of a big fire after a war that we have in those years in Spain against Napoleon. I'm going to ask you, what do you think those numbers are for? Later on, you could write it on the computer and see if you figure it out. Okay, think about it. From there, we could get into the most important street in the old town. It's called Fermín Calvetón. That's the official name, but it's known as the Pinchos Street because it's the where you have many of those bars with those appetizers, the pinchos, like those ones. And this one, Hilda, is a pincho created in the 50s in honor of Rita Hayworth, because of the movie Hilda. She came to the film festival. It's because it's a little bit spicy with anchovies, chili, and olives. It's really tasty. Hilda, don't forget it. And 4 tips to do the pinchos thing, because it has a kind of ritual. So you need to meet your friends, okay, in order to go to those different bars. First of all, you need to put money all together. So each of you are putting some money in a kind of a pot or fount. And from there, you will spend the money in the different spots. So you are going to step to one and then to another and then to another, trying the different pinchos, the different specialties, sometimes very sophisticated. And then you could get them cold or warm. Normally, if they are cold, you could pick it from the bar. Not nowadays, obviously, because of the COVID. If you want one of those warm, you need to ask them to, to warm up. And then also you need to take some drinks. So Zurito, Chacoli, Chiquito, Sidra, those are the names of the beer. The wine, the cider is very, very popular in San Sebastián because they love it. So that is the 4 tips to join your friends doing this kind of pincho tour in San Sebastián or in any other town in the north, like Bilbao or Pamplona. And last tip, the best cheesecake in the world, it is in here, in La Viña restaurant. Apparently, it is that they have several awards. Delicious cheesecake in La Viña restaurant in the old town of San Sebastián. From there, we'll go to the mouth of the river Urumea, where we have the buildings related to the film festival. The first one, it is modern auditorium and center and Congress Center, the Cursal, built by the Spanish architect Rafael Moneo in 1999. During the festival, during any event, it gets illuminated and it's very busy all the time. And then in the other side of the river, we have the former place where they had the festival, the Victoria Eugenia Theater from the 1912, Belle Epoque style, beautiful interiors. And then just in the same corner, the luxury hotel Maria Cristina, where the celebrities and everyone that could afford it should stay, or normally they stay. This is, how it looks, this whole area with the different posters of the movies during the festival. Okay, that was the Basque Country, Bilbao and Sebastián. Very interesting, right? So now we are moving to Navarra, the former kingdom of Navarra, one of the oldest kingdoms in Spain. We are going to check the city of Pamplona. Very well known worldwide because the running of the bulls. Hemingway, The Sun Also Rises. That's the name of the book, right? This is the map of Pamplona, a medium small city, 200,000 inhabitants, a little more in the metropolitan area. It was founded by the Romans in the year 75 by the Roman general Pompey. That's why the name, from Pompei, Pompaelo, Pamplona. And the most important event that happens, not the only one, but the most important are the San Fermin Festival, the running of the bulls. Most of the attractions are located in the old section. Maybe the one exception is this citadel, this fortress that is a little bit, away, but not that far. You have an overview here from the 16th, 17th century, kind of a star shape to protect the city from the invasion. Remember, Pamplona is very close to France, so that's why. This is a little bit of the interior of the city. Now it's a public park, very nice. So let's get into the city center. The main spot, the meeting point is always La Plaza del Castillo, because here they had a couple of former little castles. It was built pretty much in between the 16th, 17th century. These beautiful little houses. And it's a place where Hemingway used to hang out with these two ladies. For instance, in 1959, he came several times, having fun, as always he did, right? So many places in Pamplona are attached to Hemingway. There's a kind of Hemingway route to visit. One of them is the Hotel La Perla, just in the same square where he used to stay. They have a room with his name, probably the most expensive one. And also very important, Café Iruña, old-fashioned cafe from the 1888, where he liked to, you know, hang out and write. This is the access, like inside, beautiful, you know, old-fashioned interior. Even they have a statue, real size, in bronze of him in a corner of a bar. Okay, so the pilgrims coming from France, crossing the Pyrenees, normally they start in Roncesvalles, this kind of 2 days of pilgrimage away from Pamplona, 1 hour by car. So this is a little small town of Roncesvalles near to the Pyrenees, with a beautiful church, the Royal Collegiata from the 13th century, Gothic style. And yes, 790 kilometers from here to Santiago de Compostela, pretty much a little less than 500 miles. When they get into the city of Pamplona, they need to cross this Magdalena Bridge from the 12th century to get into the walls, the big and very high walls of Pamplona through the Gate of France, a detail of the access. One of the stops they should make is the cathedral. Normally the buildings, they should stop in the cathedrals and in the churches on the pilgrimage. So the main facade is from the 18th century, it's a later addition, but in fact it's a Gothic cathedral built in between the 14th and 15th century, as you could check in this other side, and in the interior, with a beautiful cloister too. Okay, let's do the running. So this red line is the running, the route of the running of the bulls. Okay, so they start in a kind of little stable at the beginning, and they need to cross the city center by the town hall, this building, where everything starts on the day of July 6th, the previous day to the first running of the bulls. It happens every year from the 7th to the 14th of July, this festivity, this festival. This is San Fermin, the saint patron. On behalf of him, they do the festival. And then from this square with the city hall, they need to run by the Estafeta Street, where you need to stop in this shop, Gur, very traditional products of Navarra. They have very good products like the artichoke, asparagus, peppers. At the end, they arrive to the bull ring arena with the bulls, everyone like this. But I think it's much better. It will see one of those running of the bulls. They are very fast. This one I'm gonna play for you. It took only less than 3 minutes. Let's start it, right? So that is the place where they start, in the stables. They need to run a little bit, you know, up of Santo Domingo Street, where people, the runners are waiting for them. See? How crazy is that? So, well, that is the way. That is the game. Well, believe it or not, there are professional runners. I mean, people who train the perfect way to do it. And normally they run every year. And then we have the other ones, the visitors that they don't know how to do it. And those are the ones that normally they could be killed. Sometimes people have been killed or injured. Because, you know, in the route, they need to make a couple of very big turnings, like this one in the Estafeta Street, 90 degrees. So it's really complicated. See? Well, it's really crazy. So this is Tafeta Street. So it's a straight street. So they are just running towards the Burgos area. People are just doing as best as they could, and also people watching from the balconies. In fact, renting your balcony during San Fermin is a very good business. People pay a lot of money for using one of those balconies. Now they are more sophisticated, and sometimes they offer a drink, some appetizers to the guests, and they are just arriving now to the Burgos. But it's also a very dangerous moment. But all of them, the bulls, the people, they need to go through that narrow door, and it's gonna be the end of the running. The bulls are gonna be kept till the afternoon, when they will be killed in fighting every day during those 7 days. Are you thinking of running? Maybe no, right? Or yes, who knows? Okay. From Pamplona, we are skipping La Rioja region, the wine region, because we don't have that much time. So we are going into Castilla and León. So here we are going to see Burgos and León, the two main cities in this northern part of the region. Both capital of the medieval kingdoms of Spain. Burgos is the first city we are going to check with the impressive cathedral. This is the map of Burgos. Not very big city, 175,000, 200,000 in the metro area. Was founded by the county of Castilla, by Diego de Porcelos in 1884, and later on became, in the next century, the capital of the Kingdom of Castilla. It was declared, the cathedral was declared in the 1984 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and also the archaeological site of Atapuerca, not far away from Burgos, in the 2000s. Most of the spots to see are around the cathedral, except, well, the castle is not far away, in the hill, not very important. But also we have the Museum of the Human Evolution, and a little far away we have two spots. One is this Abbey of St. Mary of las Huelgas from the 12th, 13th century, beautiful Romanesque style going to Gothic. And in the other sides, we have a beautiful building, also a kind of convent, the Charterhouse of Miraflores, in Gothic style, with a beautiful choir. Well, normally they clean up with a kind of rose fragrance. The last time I've been there, they just did it. So the whole interior of the church was smelling to rose, really delicious. And also we have this, one of the most important pieces of sculpture of Diego de Siloé, the sepulchres of John II and Isabel of Portugal from the 15th century. Those were the parents of Queen Isabella, Isabella and Ferdinand, the ones with Columbus. Those were her parents. Okay, so let's go to check a little bit of the city center. So once you arrive to Burgos, normally is half a day stop when you are visiting, unless you are interested in something in particular. So you should stop by the river, Arlanzón River, and you are going to cross the Santa Maria Bridge from the 16th century to get into the Santa Maria Arch from the 14th to 16th century, with all the important people represented at the top of the arch. You know, the founder of the city, the first king of Castilla, even Rodrigo Díaz de Vivar, El Cid. So from the access of the arch, we'll have the first beautiful, impressive view of the cathedral. Here you have another view. This year, 2021, we are celebrating the 8th centenary, 800 years since they started with the building. They built it pretty much during the 13th century. It's an impressive, huge, immense building. This is the main facade, which is in one of the laterals as you are getting to the square. And nowadays we have a big controversy because, you know, one of the most important artists in Spain nowadays, Antonio López, painter and sculptor, he have designed these new bronze doors for the main facade, and it's very controversial. I don't know what you think. Apparently they want to change them. Okay, oh no, I'm not sure if I like them. But the access to the cathedral is by one of the side doors, this one that you could check also in the other picture. So let's take a look inside. Once you arrive to Burgos, you will get in and to the main square from where you have, you know, the most impressive views of the cathedral. A very pure French Gothic style, together with the León, the two first Gothic cathedrals that were built in Spain. As I told you, celebrating the 800th anniversary. Because the structure, the flamboyant, you know, towers, and the beautiful interiors. The decoration inside sometimes are Renaissance or even Baroque, but really, really ornamental. This is the golden staircase that connects with the other street up there. And this is the Papa Moscas, a little, you know, kind of medieval robot. And this is the tomb of El Cid, Rodrigo Díaz de Vivar. The most important chapel is the one of the condestables of Castile. Those guys were very important at that moment, and they paid for the whole chapel that is pretty much like another cathedral within the cathedral. Okay? So it's a beautiful spot to visit once you are in the north of Spain, Burgos and the cathedral. As they were celebrating the 800th anniversary, well, we have our own Eagle Patrol, with the flag of Spain. So on July this year, they were celebrating, so they had this little folklore dancing in the main square in front of the cathedral. So I found it and I decided to put it just for you to have a nice overview of the traditional costumes, the traditional music and dance of this part of Spain. Those figures that you can see over there are you know, very popular in the north, are the giants and the big heads in the Basque Country also, and in other cities. Okay. From there, you could check the castle, which is not really very important, not very big, from the 9th century. And you could go inside the old section to the Plaza Mayor with these, you know, arches. And in there, there's another of my favorite places to stop in my visits, my routes, Brimbon Bean Bar and Restaurant, where you could try two other delicacies in Burgos, which is the morcilla de Burgos, blood sausage, but it's really tasty because they prepare it with rice and it's a little bit sweet. So really good. You could have it with plain or with peppers, with anything. It's really good. And also another of the very popular delicacies in here is the queso de Burgos, which is a fresh cheese made out from sheep. It's really good and healthy. And then by the river, we have this beautiful promenade, Paseo del Espolón, with these trees that I don't know if you could appreciate it, but you know, the particularity is they are united by their branches all along the promenade. It's a way to, you know, to decorate. They are like London plant trees, type of those. And at the end of the promenade, in the crossing, in the square, we have the statue, the monument dedicated to the El Cid. Probably you have seen, some of you, this famous movie from the 60s or 70s with Sophia Loren and who was Peter O'Toole, I guess. Charlton Heston, sorry, Charlton Heston. And in the other side, across the river, we have this very important museum dedicated to the human evolution because of the very immense Atapuerca archaeological site where they have been working the last decades from the 60s, and they have found remains of humans with more than 800,000 years, even 1 million years, remains. It's a UNESCO also World Heritage Site. Okay, so from Burgos, we are moving to the other important capital in the north, the capital of the former Kingdom of León. And the image I chose for you is this beautiful convent of San Marcos, which is in fact a former hostel. Now it's a hotel that belongs to this Spanish chain, national public chain of hotels called Paradores. Has been renovated, in the last years, and is really beautiful inside. This is a map of León. Population is about 125,000, 200,000 in the metropolitan area, so it's again not very big cities. And it was founded by the Romans. First of all, like a camp, a military camp in the 29 before Christ by the Roman Legio 6 victories. And later on as a city in the year 74 in the 1st century by the Roman Legio 7th Gemina. And they have Roman remains. It was declared as UNESCO Memory of the World because in León, in the Basilica of San Isidoro, it happened the first parliament in Europe in the year 1188. So that's why considered the cradle of the parliamentarism. Most of the sites are around the cathedral in the old section of the town, except, this convent, Hostal of San Marcos that I saw you in the first picture. So let's take a look to this old section. We could start in the main square, in the Plaza Mayor Square, the main square in the old section, similar to the other one we saw. But it's very interesting because, a couple of days a week, they have this very nice local producers market where you could buy all kinds of produce from the region, from the area. Also, they have the Christmas markets. And then very close, we'll arrive to the Cathedral Square, Cathedral of St. Mary, built from the 13th to the 14th century in pure Gothic French style. Let's take another view. This cathedral is not as big as the one in Burgos, but it's very important because this is the cloister. All the impressive stained glass windows. There has been, cleaning up all of them during the last decades. And once inside is really amazing. A lot of them. Like the big rose window in the main facades. It has also a very important pipe organ. So every year they have a couple of weeks of music, normally religious music, that happens happening into the cathedral. Really, really interesting with groups from all over the world. The acoustics are amazing. Then the main street here, connecting the cathedral with the other side, is the Calle Ancha, the wide street, pedestrian, full of shopping. And in that street, if you are visiting León, you need to stop in this chocolate shop called Valor. It's a brand of producer of chocolates. So you could try the very traditional Spanish chocolate with churros. And let me tell you that León was one of the first places in Spain producing chocolate. And it has a story behind because, Hernán Cortés, the conqueror of Mexico, well, it happens that one of his daughters got married with a member of the nobility of León. So Hernán Cortés, as a dowry, like a gift for the couple, he brought a lot of chocolate from America to Europe, because at that moment was kind of very expensive, but I knew. So that was the beginning of a very important chocolate industry in León. Both sides of the Calle Ancha, we have this tapas quarter called Barrio Húmedo, where you could find a lot of places to hang out and have tapas, which is different than the pinchos that we saw in the Basque Country and in Pamplona. So tapas are also appetizers that you could have in small quantities. And in León happens that in many bars and restaurants, you could get a free tapa of that size just with a drink. So you could go from one place to another, paying only drinks and getting food. So with a couple of three, you are done. Probably the most important product in León is this cecina, smoked cured beef. It's very, very popular. At the end of the Calle Ancha, we have this beautiful, impressive building from Antoni Gaudí, this important architect from Catalonia, from Barcelona, Casa Botines. He was commissioned to build it at the end of the 1800s. It belongs to a very important family, then to a bank, and now it's a museum. A hotel. And in the square, there's a statue of him sitting down. In the same square, we have this beautiful Renaissance-style Palacio de los Guzmanes, with a beautiful courtyard, Renaissance, beautiful style. And as I told you, it was founded León by the Romans. So along the city, you have several of those walls from the ones that they kept are from the 3rd and the 4th century, the last Roman walls to be built, like those ones. And during the centuries, they built houses, in between the towers of the wall, taking, advantage of that very strong walls. Another view. And then we arrived to our last stop in León, which is also the way out of the pilgrimage. You could see in the map, there's a kind of red route. There's the way of the pilgrims getting to the town and getting the exit through the Basilica of San Isidoro, an important building from starting in the 11th century, where they have the pilgrims Mass. This is interior. But also it has an area which was the royal pantheon for the kings of León, with beautiful painted murals from the 12th century, very well preserved. This kind of chapel, royal pantheon, is considered like the 16th chapel of the Romanesque art. And also they keep the chalice of Doña Urraca. They say, according to the legends, that is the chalice of Jesus Christ, so the Holy Grail or Grail. Okay, there are many of those in all over the world, but there was some studies certifying that the piece of pottery inside those jewels are dating back to the 1st century. Who knows? Let's take a little view inside the Colegiata. This magnificent building with this kind of 16th chapel of the Romanesque, I told you, very well preserved frescoes, and the chalice that they obviously have very protected, dating back to the 1st century, as they say, according to the experts, to the people who have studied. Okay, that was the visit to Castilla and León. And then we'll arrive to another way, we'll arrive to Galicia, to the city of Santiago de Compostela. Galicia, it has 4 provinces. Santiago de Compostela is in one of them, A Coruña, but that province and other 2, they have a very long coast. So Galicia is an area living from the sea, except the province in the interior that are living, just from the land. It's a beautiful view of one of the streets in Santiago. the map of the city. Small city, in fact, 100,000 inhabitants, the double in the metropolitan area. Founded in the 11th century by the Kingdom of Asturias, pretty much after they discovered the Tomb of the Apostle. And they first built a little chapel, then a basilica, then the cathedral later on. So that was the origin of the city. And because of the pilgrimage, it became very, very important. And also is a university, a city with a very important old university from the 15th century. In fact, at the end of the 15th was created. Still now is one of the most important universities in Spain. In 1985, the whole old section of the city was declared World Heritage by UNESCO. So most of the sites are near to the cathedral, except this Alameda Park, which is very near to. But there's a new addition in the last years, very controversial because they spent a lot of money in this new City of the Culture of Galicia, Ciudad de la Cultura de Galicia. They speak Galician, another language, that was built by the American architect Peter Eastman in the 1913. It wasn't completed because they were run out of money. Okay, so the main square is this Obradoiro Square, the one of where the cathedral is located. Also, we have these streets going from the cathedral to the park. The most important one is Rua do Franco, and then the Alameda Park. In the Obradoiro Square, we have the Hostal de los Reyes Católicos, a former hospital for pilgrims, nowadays also part of this chain of public hotels, luxury hotel in this case from the 15th century, that was commissioned by the Catholic monarchs, Isabella and Ferdinand. In front of the cathedral, we have the Paso do Rasoy, which is a beautiful building, neoclassical style from the 18th century, which is the headquarters of the government of Galicia and also of the city hall of Santiago. In order of the size, we have this Colegio San Jerónimo, now is the rectorate of the University of Santiago from the 18th century. And then the main facade, recently, clean because of the Holy Year. It was the basilica, the cathedral was built in between the 11th and the 13th century. All of this main facade, it was a later addition, started in the 17th to the 18th century, and Baroque style. In the Romanesque access, we have this beautiful portal of the glory that has been renovated in the last 10 years. Now you need to pay an extra fee to see it. This is the main nave with St. James at the end. And this is the coffin or the arcade, the silver arcade, where they have the remains, the bones of St. James according to the tradition. But let's take a look to Compostela. This is Galicia, where it's located, Santiago de Compostela. It's a very accommodating city because of the history it has, with all the pilgrims arriving from all over the world. Also the students of the university that they spend, most of the year in the city. So it's very charming, very busy. All year long, in particular during a holy year. This is the Potafumeiro artifact, which is something that happens, not always, but when a celebration, or you could hire also. This is the fresh, the market, the main market of Santiago, with very good fresh products, mainly from the sea, but not only. This is the Alameda Park, the one at the end of the old section, a very charming park building between the end of the 1800s and the beginning of the 20th century. Very charming, very relaxing area to be. Also the modern part where we have, the shops and the shopping center. I don't know if you are familiar with the brand Zara, this Spanish brand of clothing. It was started here in Galicia. Now it's one of the most important brands of clothing in the world. Amancio Ortega, his owner, is one of the wealthiest men in the world, the wealthiest in Spain. And then other visit we could do is, the different squares around the cathedral, where we will find, traditional jewelry like this black stone, jet stone. And in the Franco Street, also we could see those restaurants to enjoy the fresh products, or we could visit another of the sites around of the cathedral, like convent or monastery like this of San Jerome, that is opposite to the cathedral. Okay? That was a little bit of the visit of the Santiago. And finally, I want to show you how this gota fumeiro, a little bit more, it works, because it's really, really impressive. I've been several times there, and you have the impression that it's going to hit you in one, because it crosses the transept of the cathedral from one side to the other. It weighs something like 100 pounds, and they put the incense inside, and they pull. Several men, they need to pull down to move it from one side. See, it's really, once you are there and you're watching the incense, coming to you, it's kind of scary. I mean, happens not every day, only when some celebration, but some people they could hire. You are already with a group of 100 people and you want to pay it. I don't know how much it would be, but maybe 1,000 euros for the whole group. If you are, I don't know, 50 or 60, well, it's not that much if you can afford it. So this is the Gota fumeiro event. Okay, that was all. I hope you have enjoyed it. That is a little bit of, there's much more to see and to understand and learn about the North of Spain, but we don't have that much time. So I think that is enough for today. I hope you like it.
Thank you, Manuel. Thank you very much. That was very enjoyable. I think that, as always, I want to add the regions that we visit onto my bucket list. And certainly I appreciate some of the regions that are not so heavily traveled with tourists. And this is one of those regions, right? Like you can actually go and really get an authentic look at the towns and get a better sense of the culture, I think, than some of the really touristy areas in the country. Okay. So do you have a moment to take a breath, and then we'll dive into some questions? Before we do that, I put up a slide. If you are enjoying the presentation and you have enjoyed what Manuel has brought you tonight, I'm offering you several ways to tip. You can do that through Venmo, PayPal, or I have a secure credit card page on my website where you can tip the tour director. Just try to remember to put his name in the notes so that I know where the tip needs to go. Also, I put a list of our future real life tours on the side. If you're interested in touring with our group, please reach out to me. And if you are interested in real life physical travel, you can also join our Facebook group, which is Girl Travel Tours. It's a group as opposed to the page, which that really is set up for those that are interested in real life traveling together. So feel free to join us there as well, and just mention that, just mention my name and mention that I said that on the tour, and you'll get approved to get into that group as well. So Manuel, if I have not digressed enough, I'm sorry, but we'll get into the questions now. Okay. We're going to go to the top. Are you okay to read them off, or would you like me to read them and you answer them?
Whatever you want. I'm okay.
Why don't you go for it, and then we'll see how things are going.
Okay, so Anne is asking, El Camino de Compostela, you said was about 500 miles. Yeah, exactly, pretty much is the distance, and normally you want to do it at once. You should need a month, like 31 days. Yeah. Then Joseph, yeah, well, you normally it ends in Santiago, but you could go to the shore. You could go to the coast. There's a kind of extended way to the coast. It's very nice too. I will be working during Easter. Will it be difficult to find restaurants and shops open? My rooms are already booked. No, not at all. I mean, Easter is one of the package time in Spain for visitors, so everything's going widely open. John Sam, is separatism still an issue in Basque? Is there any violence associated with it? Well, not violence since the 10 years ago, when the ETA group, stopped it, and now it's, a very peaceful area. Nationalism is still there, but not with violence. Puppy made of dried flour exposed to elements. No, they are not dry, are natural flowers. They have an interior system to irrigate it. It's really complicated, but natural flowers, they change it, twice a year. Is there art about San Sebastián in San Sebastián? Well, there are some sculptures in some of the churches, yes, dedicated to San Sebastián. Is there still bullfighting in Spain? John asks. Yes, not every day, not every time, but with festival, with celebration, like in San Fermin. Yes, still. I'm not very passionate about that, but it's not my thing. But yes, people like it. Some people. Sylvia, what is the best time of the year to visit North Spain? Not too crowded or hot. Well, probably spring and autumn, because in winter it's kind of cold. In summer it could be hot, but summer is not that bad. But spring, autumn is best. Catherine, is the running of the bulls a gambling proposition? No, not really. It started, because they brought the cows to the market, and then the bulls, and they play around, and that's how it started, centuries ago. Betsy, the running of the bulls seems crazy. Yes, it is crazy. I don't know why they do it, in fact. No, it's not restricted to men. Everyone could do it. But most of the women are clever than men, and there are not that many women. Why is Manchego cheese too expensive here in the USA? Well, Manchego cheese is really, I'm from La Mancha, in fact. Well, maybe because they import it. Probably that's the if it's authentic. Okay? What is the latest situation between the government in the capital of Spain and the Basque government? Well, they are making good relations since ETA, stopped killing people years ago. So, in fact, they are supporting how the government in Spain, in Madrid nowadays. What was the name of the clothing, please? Will not understand what he said. Thank you. The name of the Zara. Z-A-R-A. Zara. It's a big brand. Huh? I'm just glad it's not hemp in that holder. I don't understand that.
The incense that was going back and forth in the church.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't get it. No, it's just incense. could be fun. Maybe, I don't know. What do the numbers on the doors mean? Oh, good. Okay, the thing is, in those main squares, sometimes they had bullfightings. So those numbers were the seats, the people they could rent it. They could rent the balconies. So there was the number of the balconies to rent for the bullfighting. Food question. Is there a big difference between tapas and pinchos? Well, the main difference is tapas are smaller, and it's just one tapa each time. Sorry, the pinchos. The tapas is like a plate, okay, or sharing food. That's the main, but nowadays are kind of, similar somehow. Christina, Northern Spain was one of my favorite trips ever. So much more to see, even close by, like Astorga is a beautiful city with the Palacio Gaudí, or the Dragonstone, where Game of Thrones is true, was filmed in the cave of Altamira. Yes, so much and also very close. Thanks, Manuel. Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you. Maritis, where can you start if you only want to do the 100 kilometers of the way? Okay, normally people start at the border of Galicia. From the border of Galicia, of the region, to Santiago, pretty much 100 kilometers. So it's one of the most popular starting point, in fact, because you could get the Compostela, the certificate. Linda, what is the best way to travel in this area if you don't want to drive? Well, maybe by bus. We have trains but are not connecting all the cities, so maybe by bus is the best way. Joan, what was the last church in your tour? The Cathedral of Santiago. The Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela, the end of the
Manuel, I'll take the next one. It says, can I get a video of this presentation? all of the presentations that we do are available at no charge on my website and on YouTube and on Facebook. So if you go to girltraveltours.com, there is a virtual tour drop-down menu, and you can access all of the past presentations.
Okay. Lockdowns from pandemic. Well, not now. We had it, and now we are having some restrictions, like using, the mask and things like that. But so far in Spain, we are fully vaccinated. Most of the population. Now we are starting with kids. So, well, with the pandemic, you never know. Though those 5-6-story homes have elevators, not all of them. In fact, in the old sections of the cities, it's very difficult to have an elevator because those buildings are protected and they can build an elevator most of the times in the very old section. Mary, what is cost of living in Bilbao? Sorry. Cost of 2 bedrooms and I'm not sure because I'm not living in Bilbao, but it's kind of expensive. So I guess that 2 bedrooms for renting around 900 euros at least in the city center. Was there any trouble in northern Spain in the Second World War, or did a lot of British? I mean, we were neutral in the Second World War. We are friends of Franco, the dictator we had was friend of Hitler and Mussolini. So not that many problems because of that. But yes, we received refugees, even Nazis refugees, in their way to Argentina and Brazil because they were under the protection of Franco. There's books and histories about that. And talking about that, if you want to see a movie of related with that, you should check The Way. It's a movie from some years ago with Martin Sheen, that you have a feeling of how is to do The Way. It's a very good movie, The Way.
That's great. Everybody always likes movie recommendations. And the last question I'll pose to you, and this is a question we always get, how long would it take to do the tour that we just did virtually in the last 90 minutes if you were to do it in real life?
I mean, if you want us to visit all the 5 towns, we only visit 5 towns, I would say like at least 15 days. Well, maybe not that much. No, maybe not that much because I was thinking about the Camino. No, but 10 days at minimum, 2 days per city, 10, 12, so not far from 15.
Okay, so we will put it on our list next time we go to Spain. Thank you, Manuel, very much again. And thank you, everybody, for joining us again tonight. Enjoy your day, and we will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye, Manuel.
Thank you, Mara. Thank you, everyone. And Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy New Year. Bye.
You too.